right, so for our last technique, we are going to use some watercolor crayons. So I'll show you how to do it with just the crayons, not putting anything on top of it. And then the spin off, we're going to put some clear embossing powder on it and emboss it and give it a nice, beautiful shine. And then for a second spin off, I'm going to show you what frosted crystal embossing powder looks like. It just gives it a really pretty frosted look, almost as if the leaves got hit by a overnight frost. First one we're going to do is the one without any embossing. So I have a little dish here with some water, and I've got 4 different crayons, a green, a brown, an orange, and a red. I'm going to start with the green, and this one, it must have broken it sometime. So it's quite soft and it's very bendy. So all I'm doing is I'm dipping my crayon into the water and then coloring it on my stamp. Now, likely could do this with watercolor pencils depending on how soft they are. I had originally wanted to do this. Tim Holtz just came out with watercolor pencils, and I had originally wanted to do that with that, but my package has been stuck in customs for nearly 2 weeks now, so I figured I'd do this with product I already had on hand. It's just not nearly as exciting sometimes as playing with something that's new. So I'm just going to make sure, I didn't get any green on this guy here, so put a little bit more. I'm just going to make sure that my whole surface of all of the stamps are covered. And you can see that I'm dipping in water frequently. That water just helps that crayon to stay a little bit moist. And that just helps me to be able to spread the color on the stamp. Now obviously the green color is a lot easier to see than the other colors. The other colors are quite similar to the stamp color. And once again, I'm doing fall leaves. This would be really, really pretty, especially with the frosted crystal with some winter greens. And then do the frosted crystal, so kind of like frosted pines or something like that. That would look really, really pretty. And last color, red. So you're definitely not limited to just fall cards with this. Have fun with it. It's always fun to have different ways to use the products you already have. And just same as before, I like to do the red kind of on the leaf tips. But there's no rhyme or reason. If you go out and look at the fall leaves, they're not all on just the tips. So before I stamp it, just at the off chance that my green is dried, I'm just gonna do a couple light mists with my sprayer. And then stamp it. There we go. Very pretty. I'm gonna set that aside to dry, and then we are going to work on another one right away. So next one we're going to do is the one with the clear glossy powder over top. So I'm repeating the exact same process with coloring my stamp. Should be slightly easier after the first time just because your crayons are already wet. And I'm trying to color in the same areas with the same colors that I did before, but there's no big deal if you happen to go over or do it in a different area. You're not going to ruin your crayons in any way. If you happen to get a different color on them, they can easily just be rinsed dry or rinsed off. And again, with my orange, I'm trying to do any open space, and then I just go with my red and do some of the tips. Didn't do any yellow in here, but you could certainly add yellow to this. That would be really, really pretty. And then last one is the red. All right, once again, I'm going to light mist with the water just to make sure that everything is wet. There we go, very cute. And then I've got my container of clear powder here. Now the one thing when you're embossing this, because there's some moisture under it, those places that have some extra moisture do take a little bit longer to emboss. So if it doesn't work quite as quick as regular embossing, just don't panic, it'll happen. There we go. Tap off the excess. Put this aside to dry, or not dry, put this aside to emboss. And there we are, just tilted in the sunlight just to make sure that everything is embossed. There's a few spots that I missed. There we go, that's better. And I think I said tilted in the sunlight, I meant tilted in the light. And I'm just doing this on regular smooth cardstock, so it does warp a little bit with the technique because there is some water, but it is going to get dried fairly quickly, and once we glue it down on our card, you're never even going to notice that. But if you feel more comfortable, you could use mixed media paper.